Right. So we are going to today begin our review of calculus, and I am going to start with basic definition of, first of all, what is a function, then when do we say that a function is continuous, and finally then the next thing is differentiability of function, then these are all things I am going to first discuss for univariate functions. Then we go to multivariate functions and again discuss the above concepts, in particular partial derivatives, and then Taylor series expansion. So this is the target. This is what our job for today is. Taylor series is for both univariate and multivariate functions. I'm going to discuss this for both. Okay. So what is a function? Let's start from that. So function is a map. I'm starting with univariate function from R to R. We're keeping it simple right now. In general, this is a set here. Need not be a complete real line. So it could be from a set D, which is a restriction or an interval, to the codomain or range or codomain here, which is also a set, or rather subset of R. But let me keep this simple right now. All R to R function is defined as a map from R to R, which means that there is an assignment for every x in domain, or in our case R. There is an assignment f of x, which is again a real number y, which is in a restricted sense is in the range or codomain. Now, this is not possible with a function. If you are looking at, say, f of x of 1, it is not possible that f of x of 1 or it is y2. So both of them simultaneously is not possible with a function. Either it is this defined as this or defined as this. Both is not possible. So therefore, in other words, if this is my R, this is the other set, the domain and the codomain or range or whatever, you cannot have this kind of assignment. If this is done, this is not possible. Both simultaneously cannot happen. If, however, many to one assignment is all right. This is possible. This many to one assignment is possible. A assignment where something like this happens is called one to one. This is many to one. This is a one to one assignment. Now, if the complete in this assignment here, if this complete space is covered, that means for every y in this codomain, let me call it as CD, there is x in the domain D or S. Most of the time in optimization course, we use the notation S for this, such that some fx is equal to y, then there exists some x in S such that for all y in codomain CD, there exists an x in S, at least one, such that this is equal to y. Then we say that such an assignment is onto. So an assignment which is both 1, 1 and onto leads to what is known as a invertible function. These are assignments like this, and completely this is covered. So therefore, if I am here, I can go back by another definition of a function called as f inverse. I can go back. If so, the back assignment allows you to take forward, the other one allows to take you backward. So both 1, 1 and onto functions are invertible, and we invertible functions, and this idea extends to matrices also, is it not? So we have matrices which are invertible and sometimes which are not invertible. So many to one, even if onto, cannot give you invertible functions. The reason is simple. Suppose two assignments come to the same point y. Then when you want to go back, you really don't know whether you can go this path you should take or this path you should take. So then f1 inverse does not exist. In this case, we say that f1 inverse does not exist. Now let us talk of continuous functions, even restricting myself to a univariate case. So a function f, for the time being, keeping it R to R, is said to be continuous, or actually, function f from R to R is said to be continuous at x if if given any epsilon greater than 0, there exists a neighborhood delta. This is a neighborhood delta such that for all y in this neighborhood, x minus delta to x plus delta, and this is a open interval. In this neighborhood, for all y, f of y is in the epsilon distance of, keep everything with open neighborhood, is in the epsilon distance of f of x. What we are trying to do is here eliminate breaks. See, I'll explain to you this concept. So say this is your x, this is your y, which is f of x. and let me define a function like f of x is y is equal to f of x is equal to x for x less than 1 and y is equal to x plus 0.02 for x greater than or equal to 1. So then what am I doing? I am taking a 45-degree line here. This, let's say this is value 1. So as I approach x less than 1, it is a 45-degree slope. At 1, this point cannot be 1 because at 1 it jumps to 1 plus 0.02. So I let's say this is 1, this is 1.02, and then it goes like this. So there is a discontinuity seen here. So now as per my definition, choose epsilon greater than 0. So here always the epsilon is chosen to be a small enough number. If I choose a large enough number, there is nothing much that is going to happen. So for example, here I see the discontinuity of 0.02. So let's say I choose epsilon 0.1. Then the definition demands that there should exist a neighborhood delta greater than 0 such that in that neighborhood, so let's say this is a delta neighborhood. In that neighborhood, all the values, all assignments fy should be between, this is 1, so 1 plus epsilon is 1.01 and 1 minus is 0.99. So all assignments of fy should be between 0.99 and 1.01. But if you see here in this assignment, this side is okay. This is if I go 0.01 distance, whatever delta I took, this side is fine. But on this side, any next value is 1.02. It is in this side, no value is below whatever small neighborhood I take, or whatever neighborhood I take, this value will always be greater than or equal to 1.02. So it's not going to this. So, and this should happen. It's not going to be less than or equal to it's not going to be less than or equal to 1.01. So no neighborhood exists. Therefore, the function is discontinuous at x. So that's the idea. You have to test these epsilons with very small numbers. That's the basic idea of a small neighborhood delta. So I repeat again, just to repeat again, for function f to be continuous at x, what is required is that for every epsilon greater than 0, you should be you want to, if there exists a neighborhood around, and in univariate function the neighborhood is an interval, there exists a neighborhood delta around this, there exists around x such that all f of y coming here are in the epsilon distance of f of x. That means values can be brought as close to f of x as you want. That is, they will come, if you make it all very, very small, it almost becomes f of x. Then we say that the function is continuous. Now I'm going to so the next thing that I'm going to discuss is derivatives. We'll continue. First, we'll do it with a univariate function only. So, first thing that is required is that the function should be continuous. Now, a function has a derivative, continuous function has a derivative at x, let's say x star, has a derivative at x star if this limit exists, and then this derivative is said to be f dash of x star. Simple example, all of you know this. Let's take f of x is equal to x square. Then f of x plus h is x plus h whole square, which is x square plus 2hx plus h square. So f of x plus h minus f of x is 2hx plus h square, and then divide it by h. So you get x plus h, sorry, 2x plus h. And now look at limit h tending to 0. You are looking at limit of this h tending to 0, and then this is nothing but equal to 2x. So you say that f dash of x, f dash of the f dash of x is 2x, where my function f of x is x square. Now all continuous functions need not have a derivative. Take for example, f of x is equal to mod of x. Here is x, here is mod of x. So 45-degree line like this, 45-degree line like this. Now I ask you a question. Does the derivative exist at this point? Your answer is going to be yes. And f dash is actually nothing but the slope minus 1. If I ask you, does the derivative exist at this point? Your answer is going to be yes. And here the f dash of x, the derivative is plus 1. But if I ask you the question here at this corner, does the derivative exist? And your answer is going to be no. Why? Because coming from the left, the slope is minus 1, and coming from right, here the slope is plus 1. So the limit h tending to 0, this does not exist. So no derivative at f of 0 everywhere else. So if you plot this derivative function f dash in some sense here, you get minus 1 here, and then there is a jump at plus 1 here, and a discontinuity here. So such a function, what we can say is f is continuous but f dash is not. So a function, continuous function whose f dash is also continuous is a smooth function. such a function, I say that it comes from C1. That means it is continuous, its derivative is also continuous. Then similarly, I can have functions which are coming from C square, which is to say that f is continuous, f dash exists and is continuous, and f double dash means the second derivative d square f by dx square also, this is even more smoother, it also exists and is continuous. Okay, so this takes care of my univariate function. Now I can extend these definitions to multivariate case. How do I extend this definition to multivariate case? I define, instead of derivative, I define partial derivative. So delta, let's say I'm going to define capital F of x1, x2 to xn as a multivariate function, which is a map from Rn to R, because it just takes a value y here, real valued y here. Now this function is continuous if there exists this function is continuous if for all epsilon chosen, any epsilon greater than 0, however small you take, there exists a neighborhood continuous at x if there exists a delta neighborhood around x, which is to say that a delta neighborhood is essentially a set of all y's such that y minus x distance is less than delta. Again, an open neighborhood. If I say delta less than or equal to considering the border points, then it will become a closed neighborhood. I am taking an open neighborhood. There exists this neighborhood delta around it, and example like y minus, a simple definition is to take a Euclidean distance. This is called norm or of defining, but a very simple way of defining is to subtract the coordinates and then just take the square root, the generalization of Euclidean distance, also known as the areal distance. So there exists a neighborhood like this, such that in that for all y in this delta neighborhood, f of y is in the epsilon neighborhood of f of x. That is to say that f of y is less than f of x plus epsilon and greater than f of x minus epsilon. So if you had x1, x2 and this is your x here, then the delta neighborhood would correspond to a circle. If it's in 3 dimension, it's a sphere, and then after that you can call it a hypersphere. So this takes care of our what is known as a continuous function, and then we will talk of partial derivative. So my f is from x1, x2 to xn. then the partial derivative exists f with respect to let's say I partial derivative with I exists if following limit minus x1 x2 to xn. So just perturb the ith variable by h, then take the difference, divide the difference by h, and then look at this thing. So if this partial derivative, such a partial derivative exists for each of the I from 1 to n, that means this should exist, then this this should exist, and this should exist. All of them should exist. Then we say that this is the gradient vector of x. This is the gradient vector of x. Let's take a pause here.